Good morning from Pittsburgh. It's Wildcard Weekend, and the Steelers Roundtable is back at you. It must be a Thursday. It must be 9 a.m. Chris Buzzsaw Adamski on his day off in the studio.
You're used to that, aren't you?
That is the absolute dedication that Chris Buzzsaw Adamski has for this show, and I'm not quite sure why you got my Twitter page up on your computer, but we'll talk about that later. This is the Steelers Roundtable on Trib Live Radio, brought to you by Goodrich Geist, pursuing justice for real people, online at goodrichandgeist.com. Buzz, there's one big story happening. You know what? There's only 8 teams playing this week, so all of a sudden 32 teams down to 8 playing this week. When one thing said that may or may not be controversial, it gets blown up. Martavis, Bryant, Ben Roethlisberger. My view on this is everybody knows the story by now. Ben said he needs to toughen up, especially in this playoffs. They need him. You can read it on the Trib in today's paper, what happened, what he had to say. My thought is on this, forget Martavis Bryant for a second. I'll ask you about that. My thought is Ben Roethlisberger has every darn right in the world to say what he said. I don't care if it was public. I don't care if it was in private. He's been in the league 12 years. He's won 2 Super Bowls. And if something needs to be said in his eyes to light a fire under a guy as talented as Martavis Bryant, so be it. Maybe his head coach should have did the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know who. Somebody said, I'm being serious, I can't remember who said it yesterday, that Martavis Bryant's the key to the Steelers, can win the Super Bowl if Martavis Bryant. It was somebody in the Steelers meeting room.
He's important.
But yes, I don't know if I go that far for sure that I win the Super Bowl with him or without him. But he is, let's face it now, especially if you're down to another run, all of a sudden this dynamic offense, there's a point where there's a breaking point without your center, your left tackle. If your number 3 receiver is pretty much a no-show like he was in Cleveland, whether it be injury or illness or lack of focus or whatever it was, and probably it was some combination of those 3, he was literally not there. And if you start chopping down your weapons one by one now, that makes and we've seen it in terms of the offensive production the last 2 weeks. Martavis Bryant was a non-factor, and the Steelers only scored 17 and 28
I think
points.
we agree that he's needed. They need him to pick up his game. Could help this week where you have that umbrella defense that Cincinnati likes to employ, keep everything in front of you. But let's forget about the X's and O's. I know you're an X and O's guy, Buzz. Let's forget about that for a second. Let's forget about your stats and X and O. Let's forget about that. Tell me the actual dynamic of the quarterback doing what he did. What goes through his mind saying, you know what's a good idea? Let me publicly call out this guy because you know what? In my opinion, he's probably been on his case forever, and it's just not going through that thick skull of his. He goes, let's try something else.
And well, I was getting to that. You didn't let me finish.
Nah, you were just going about something else.
His importance to the team, I think Ben recognized that he needs Martavis to be the big play, dynamic Martavis that we've seen through much of his career, and not the one that's been the past couple of weeks that hasn't really been a factor.
But do you have to do this in a public forum, though?
I think
it's all right.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think it gets. There's a point. Yes, if you're in your 12th season, like you talked about, Super Bowl champion. The quarterback's always the leader, but especially when you're the oldest guy on the offense, you're a leader. I mean, there's so many reasons. He's probably a future Hall of Famer. Martavis is only in his 2nd season. What's he going to do? Fire back at him? He had to know that and it did get through his head more, I'm sure. Whenever you saw the media scrum, I mean, it turned into
that was almost like a Ben Wednesday where they were setting up shop. People were having boom mics and little mini ladders. I should have brought my selfie stick and tried to stick it in there or whatever to get it in there. My question is, how do you think Martavis now handled this? I thought he handled it quite well. I mean, you could just say, well, whatever, I just need to get better, not answer it. Even if he doesn't believe it, he said, challenge accepted. I get where he's coming from. I thought he handled it well. I don't know if that was a PR ploy on the Steelers' part. This is what you should say here, but I think he even handled it well. It should be dead right now.
I'm going to retweet it. A wise man just yesterday at exactly 4:12 p.m. tweeted, Martavis Bryant said all the right things, handled it right. And I happened to go through your Twitter timeline last night, and I saw that, and I thought it was right on target. You're right. Whether or not he I have the feeling that he has. I've heard some of those kind of platitudes, some of those cliches that he brought up yesterday, that how Ben challenges him. I've heard him say that in the past. I've heard him say things, I want to be the best in the world. I've heard him say things like that. So you're probably right, or I'm sure you're right, that Ben's been kind of in his head for a while here now. Yeah. And so, but that being said, you're exactly right about even if he didn't believe it, if he didn't agree with it, even if he's mad about it, going to the press and saying he's mad about it or didn't like it or not being completely, contrite. Is that the right way of putting it? I don't know if contrition.
You're the one who used the big words. Like